Welcome to the Cutting Edge AI Podcast, where innovation meets imagination. Hosted by AI consultant and visionary Timothy Terry. This is where technology, creativity, and the future collide.
Welcome back to the Cutting Edge AI Podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and I am thrilled to be joined by our certified AI consultant, Timothy Terry, recognized in over 50 countries for his expertise. Today, we're diving into how AI is revolutionizing K-12 education. Timothy, to kick us off, what's one transformation you're most excited about?
I would say just taking the whole, and thanks again, Jonathan, excited to be back. I would say just taking the whole 8 hours and condensing it down to 2 hours. That is what I'm most excited about. What's your take on the whole time thing and the whole paradigm shift when it comes to that whole 8 versus 2? What are your thoughts?
I think it's mind-blowing. Condensing learning with AI means hyper-personalization. We're talking about boosting engagement and freeing up time for creativity or emotional growth. It's the shift from routine to real impact, and that excites me.
Sounds good. Well, Jonathan, let's go ahead and go into we're going to use a really cool software that's going to do a deep dive on this, and let's make it happen. I think it'll bring a lot of great information to our listeners as well.
Absolutely, Timothy. Let's fire it up. We're diving deep, bringing those insights and giving our listeners the cutting edge they tuned in for. Let's make it happen.
Structure of your childhood. You know, the 6, maybe 7 hour school day.
The grind.
The grind, exactly. Sitting in a chair, bell rings, shuffle to the next class. What if all of that was just wildly inefficient?
It's a pretty provocative way to start.
It is. But here's the hook that really grabbed me. What if a student could master all their core subjects, math, science, all of it, in just 2 hours a day?
Sounds a little too good to be true.
Right. And not just scraping by. I mean, actually outperforming their peers who are stuck in that 7 hour a day model.
It sounds like an infomercial, you know. Learn physics in your sleep. But what we're talking about today isn't some kind of hack. It's a complete redesign.
And that's our deep dive, a place called Alpha School, and this concept they call 2 hour learning.
Yeah, and it's all based on the work of its founder, Mackenzie Price. But to really get it, you have to understand that this isn't a new idea. It's a very old problem.
A problem that technology might have finally solved.
Exactly. We have to go back to the 1980s to something called the 2 sigma problem.
This is the key. You have to understand this to understand everything else.
Right. So in 1984, a researcher, Benjamin Bloom, he ran these huge studies. He wanted to know empirically what is the absolute best way for a human to learn something.
And the results were pretty definitive.
Oh, incredibly so. Bloom found that if you take a perfectly average student, someone right in the middle of the bell curve, and you give them one-on-one mastery-based tutoring,
their performance just explodes.
it skyrockets. They perform 2 standard deviations better than kids in a normal classroom.
Okay, 2 standard deviations. Let's bring that down because that sounds like dry statistics, but it's life-changing.
It is. In plain English, it means that average C student with a personal tutor now performs better than 98% of the kids in a traditional class.
You're turning an average kid into an A-plus top-of-the-class performer.
You're basically turning them into a genius.
Yeah.
And Price uses this great historical analogy.
Alexander the Great.
Exactly. He wasn't just, born a military genius. He was tutored by Aristotle.
And Aristotle was tutored by Plato.
Right. When you have one of the smartest minds in history focused only on you, on your questions, at your pace, you learn at a completely different level.
But there's the problem Bloom hit, right? And the problem we've had for centuries.
It's the scalability problem.
You can't give every kid an Aristotle.
It's economically impossible. You can't have a 1-to-1 teacher-student ratio for, millions of kids.
So we settled. We built the factory model of school. 1 teacher, 30 kids.
And we sacrificed that incredible effectiveness just so we could have scale. That's been the trade-off for 100 years.
But the mission of this deep dive is to look at how that trade-off is. Well, it's breaking.
Because the claim here, the whole thesis of Alpha School, is that AI finally solves Bloom's scalability problem.
It's the missing piece. AI lets us democratize the Alexander the Great experience for everyone.
Right. It's not about replacing teachers. It's about using a tool to do something a human physically can't do, which is personalize a lesson for 30 different kids at the exact same time.
Okay, but I know you, and I know our listeners. You see 2 hours a day, you hear 99th percentile, and you get skeptical.
Absolutely. Big claims need big evidence.
So let's look at the numbers. The data from Alpha's last academic year. Are these kids actually learning?
The data is, well, it's pretty startling. Their internal metrics show students are learning at a rate of 2.3 times faster than what you'd expect in a normal school.
So wait, they're covering more than 2 years of curriculum in 1 year.
In a single school year. And it's not just about speed. They use the NWA MAP assessments.
Which is a big standardized test.
Huge. 10 million students in the U.S. take it. It's a real benchmark. And Alpha students consistently score in the 99th percentile.
Which lines up perfectly with Bloom's 2 Sigma findings from 40 years ago.
It's a perfect match. But the stat that really, it just stopped me in my tracks was the time, the efficiency.
This is where it gets uncomfortable for the traditional system.
It really does. So in a normal school, you get about 200 hours a year for each subject. 200 hours of math, 200 hours of science.
At Alpha, they master that same curriculum in, what was it?
It's 20 to 30 hours.
Hold on. 200 hours versus 20, that's a 10x difference.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the other 180 hours go? Is it just wasted?
A lot of it, yeah. Just think about a normal classroom. The teacher is trying to manage 25, 30 kids.
All at completely different levels.
Exactly. You've got kids who are bored because they already know it, and kids who are totally lost because they missed something 2 years ago.
The Swiss cheese problem. All these holes in their knowledge.
Right. So the teacher has to teach to the middle. They spend time on classroom management, on review. The actual time a kid's brain is firing and learning something new is it's surprisingly small.
I remember that feeling, just sitting there watching the clock, waiting for the teacher to get to I didn't understand yet.
That's dead time. All of that is dead time. The Alpha model it gets rid of the waiting. If you know it, you move on. If you don't, you stay on it.
Time becomes the variable and learning is the constant.
You got it.
Okay, let's get into the how. Because I'm sure people are thinking, all right, so they just give a kid ChatGPT and say, teach me algebra.
And that is the #1 misconception. Mackenzie Price is very, very clear about this.
What's her view?
They take a hard anti-chatbot stance for the core academic stuff.
Why? I mean, a tool like ChatGPT is pretty powerful.
It's powerful, but think about a 12-year-old. Are they going to have a deep Socratic dialogue about the causes of the Civil War?
No, they're going to say, hey, AI, what's the answer to question 7?
It becomes a cheating machine. It bypasses the struggle, and learning requires that struggle.
So what do they use instead?
It's a proprietary system called Dash. And you should think of Dash less like a teacher and more like a conductor or a central nervous system.
So it's not actually writing the lessons itself?
No. Dash integrates all these other best-in-class adaptive learning apps, things like Alex for math, different reading programs. Dash is the GPS that tells the student exactly where to go.
It's curating the pathway for them.
And it's managing something called productive struggle. This is so important. You have to keep the student in the zone of proximal development.
Okay, don't get too academic. Break that down.
It's the Goldilocks zone. Not too hard, not too easy. If it's too easy, you're bored. If it's too hard, you give up. Dash is constantly measuring a student's speed and accuracy to keep them right in that sweet spot where the brain is actually growing.
And it's tracking more than just right or wrong answers, isn't it? It's tracking behavior.
This is where the AI tutor has a huge advantage. It knows if you're just clicking through answers without reading and knows if you skip the explanation.
It catches you when you're trying to game the system.
Instantly. And it intervenes. So if a student is stuck on fractions, a human teacher might just give them more fraction problems. But the AI might see a pattern and realize, wait, the problem isn't fractions. The problem is they never memorized their multiplication tables.
It finds the original hole in the Swiss cheese.
And sends them back to patch it. You cannot move on until you prove mastery. You don't get a C- and shuffle to the next chapter. You get an A or you stay put.
There was one feature that felt a little bit like sci-fi to me. The vision models.
Yeah, the screen recording analysis, yeah. So the AI can actually show a student a replay of their screen and say, see, right here, you misread the prompt. You missed the negative sign.
It's coaching them on how to learn, not just what to learn.
Precisely.
So if this incredible AI is handling all the instruction, the math, the grammar, the facts, it raises a huge question. What are the adults doing?
It's a total paradigm shift. At Alpha, the adults in the room are not called teachers. They're called guides.
And their job description is completely different.
Completely. The number one rule is that guides do zero academic teaching.
None.
None. They don't need to know calculus. They don't make lesson plans. They don't grade homework. The AI does all of that.
So what's their job?
Their job is 100% about motivation, mindset, and emotional support.
They're the human element.
Exactly. A traditional teacher has to wear, 5 different hats? Expert, disciplinarian, grader. It's impossible. Here, you separate the roles. The AI handles the content. The human handles the child's will to learn.
And they get paid well for this. I think Price said guides start around $100,000 a year. But the metrics for success are wild.
They're radical. A guide is held accountable for 3 things. 1, kids learn twice as fast. 2, kids develop life skills. And 3,
Kids have to love school.
kids have to love school. Think about that. If a kid is miserable, the guide is considered to be failing at their job. Their job is to figure that kid out.
And that bird watching story from the source material just illustrates this so perfectly.
It's the core of the model. You have this boy, he's always distracted, just staring out the window.
In a normal class, he's the problem student. He gets detention.
Right. But his guide, she isn't busy trying to lecture 30 other kids. She has the time to just watch him. And she realizes he's not zoning out. He's obsessed with the birds outside.
He's a budding ornithologist.
You got it. So she makes a deal with him. She says, you hit your academic goals for the morning, and you and I get 15 minutes to go outside and just watch birds.
She used the relationship to fuel the work.
She used a human connection to unlock his motivation. The AI provided the math problems, but the guide provided the reason to do the math. And that motivation, that's 90% of the battle.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Academics are done by 10 a.m., maybe noon. What happens for the rest of the day? Do they just go home?
No, this is where it gets really interesting. This is the superpower part of the day. They take all that time they saved, and the afternoons are for life skills.
Things like public speaking, entrepreneurship, sports.
And independent projects they call masterpieces. And this is where they finally do bring in tools like ChatGPT.
So they don't use it to cheat on math, they use it to create.
Exactly. Price calls it giving them superpowers. For example, some high schoolers were studying for AP U.S. history. They used an AI to write these catchy, Hamilton-style rap songs to memorize facts.
That's brilliant. It makes learning active, not passive.
Or there was an app they made called Teach Tales. Younger kids could use it to generate choose-your-own-adventure stories where they and their friends were the main characters.
So it encourages them to read because it's about them.
The whole philosophy is to build creators and builders, not just consumers of information.
Look, this all sounds incredible. It sounds like the future. But we have to talk about the elephant in the room. This has to be insanely expensive.
It is. The main Alpha campuses run between $40,000 and $65,000 a year.
That's elite, top-tier private school tuition, which raises the question, is this just a super education for the rich? Are we just going to make the inequality gap even wider?
It's a totally fair question, and it's the first thing critics point to. But Price argues this is just the Tesla Roadster phase. You start expensive to fund the R&D to eventually make it cheap.
So what's the proof of that?
She points to their campus in Brownsville, Texas.
Which is a very different community than Silicon Valley.
Very different. Lower income, right on the border. The tuition there is $10,000 a year, and the students are a mix of SpaceX families and kids from the local community.
Okay, so does the model still work there?
That's the kicker. The Brownsville campus actually outperforms the other, more expensive campuses.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it proves the model works across all socioeconomic lines. It's not about having wealthy parents, it's about the system itself.
But 10,000 is still a lot. What's the end game for, regular families?
Well, the argument is that the cost of the AI itself is dropping to basically zero. She thinks in a few years, a $1,000 tablet will be able to deliver this entire curriculum.
And they're trying to go public, right, with charter schools.
Yep. They've been approved for a charter in Arizona, applying in Texas. The goal is to make it free. And for homeschoolers, there's Alpha Anywhere, which is sort of a DIY kit for parents who want to try this model at home.
So when you zoom out, the real change here is a move away from a time-based system.
That's the fundamental shift. For a century, school has been, you get 180 days of 4th grade. If you learn it in 2 days, too bad. Sit there and be bored. If you don't get it in 180 days, too bad, you fail.
Time was the constant.
And this model flips that completely. Learning is the constant. You will master the material. Time is the variable. It might take you 20 hours, it might take you 40, but you will get there.
It feels like we're finally letting computers be computers and humans be humans.
Right. Let the machine do the patient data-driven instruction. Let the human do the inspiring, the mentoring, the motivating. Stop asking teachers to be bad computers.
It's a brave new world. And, as we wrap up, there's one thought that I just can't shake. We've been talking about 10-year-olds this whole time. But if a child can do their entire year's worth of elite-level academic work in just 2 hours a day, what does that say about us?
About our own work days.
Exactly, our 8-hour, 9-to-5 grind. How much of that is truly productive struggle? And how much is just sitting in meetings, watching the clock?
If we applied this kind of efficiency model to the corporate world, could we all be working 2-hour days?
It's a dangerous question to ask yourself. Are we really maximizing our potential, or are we just trapped in that same old factory model?
Maybe don't ask your boss that question tomorrow.
Maybe not, but it's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Always a predator.
See you next time.
All right, everyone. That's a wrap on this electrifying episode of the Cutting Edge AI podcast. Huge shout out to Timothy and to all of you listening. Keep riding this wave of innovation. Stay curious, stay excited, and we'll catch you next time with even more game-changing AI.